Hey YouTube, what if you could have only 5 specific bushcraft or camping tools for the rest of your life? Which ones would you bet the rest of your life on? What 5 would you choose? How would you even decide? In 5 to Survive, we ask experts what tools they would choose. We pick their brains about why and give you 5 things to consider adding to your gear. We also learn a little about the skills you need to use those tools. Whether you learn something or just enjoy listening to outdoor geeks talking about their gear, please subscribe and hit the notification button. We also have a companion podcast that includes all of the discussion in the YouTube episodes, but it includes more in-depth discussion with the experts, the why behind their what of their choices, and some laughs. I'm Joe Bassett, this is Valiant Outfitters, and you're about to discover 5 to Survive. Today, I'm in my ham radio shack. We're going to talk about communication tools, specifically two-way radios, with the Public Information Officer for the North Florida section of the American Radio Relay League. His name is Scott Roberts, and he's also the Clay Area's liaison to our County Emergency Operations Center, and he's been a net control station for every tropical storm or hurricane that has threatened Northeast Florida over the last 5 years. If you've ever chatted with a product expert at gigaparts.com, there's a pretty good chance it was Scott that you're talking to, so his product knowledge is outstanding. And he's my partner in the Zero to License Tam Cram and a best friend, so we might share some stories of hijinks and tell some legends, some of which might even be true. I'm Joe Bassett, this is Valiant Outfitters. You're about to discover 5 to Survive. Hey Scott, welcome to Valiant Outfitters, 5 to Survive.
Hey Joe, it's good to be here with you today. I'm excited.
I got to say, this is a little weird doing this by Zoom, knowing that you only live about 3 miles away.
I was thinking about throwing a cup and a string and seeing if we could accomplish it that way, but that's not one of the 5, but it was an idea I had.
It would have worked. Hey, we're radio experts. We can do that type of thing.
We can do it. We can do it, definitely.
Hey, before we get into the 5 to Survive, though, I want to get to what everybody's wondering. Exactly how great is it to be my friend?
Well, Joe, I have to admit 2 stories. The first one is, when I first got my license and I was attending one of my first ham radio meetings, we were meeting at a local hospital, and I pulled up in the parking lot and I got out of the car, and all I saw was a group of guys standing outside of a little trailer. One of the guys was in a wheelchair. One was in a motorized cart. The other one, 2 of them they had little IV poles with them. I called my wife and said, call the local nursing homes and let them know if they're missing anybody, I know where they're at. Because it was a group of old guys, except for 1 or 2 guys that I would consider closer to my age. You were one of them. So I felt a little bit more comfortable, but that was the first time I think that we met. And then the other one was when we went to take our ham radio test, and we were getting our extra license, and you got 100, right? So I didn't, but I passed. But that's all that was important. But shortly after that, we were working with some Boy Scouts, and you were having a problem with a microphone, and you thought you were getting bit by ants. And now remember, you got 100 on your extra test. I just want to make sure everybody knows this. And we stepped out and noticed that the antenna was running right over the tent where we were. And when you would key up, it was getting RF burn back into the microphone. We call it mic bite. And remember, Joe got 100 on his ham radio test, that test. So yeah, that's what it's like to be your friend, Joe. It's about like that.
Well, the good news is I have full editing control of this. So thank you for that one story that you told.
yeah, I bet. Yeah.
No, seriously. I'm glad you're doing this, because this could be a lot of fun. I know it's going to be fun for us, and who knows, the viewers might enjoy it.
I hope they do. I really do.
But for the viewers, just so you know, Scott and I are kind of opposite sides of the same personality. He's the extrovert. I'm the introvert. and we work exceptionally well together at radio events, but we have two diametrically opposed views to two-way radios, ham radio in particular. But one place we do agree on, and I want to talk about a little bit, along with your on-air ham radio skill, you've also been a front runner in leading the way for improving the image of amateur radio emergency services, particularly here in North Florida with our served agencies like hospitals and EOCs. You're the PIO for us here in Clay County, but you're also a PIO or PIC, whatever the initials are, for the North Florida section of the ARL. What's been the key to your success in rebuilding that image?
So in working in amateur radio, especially in emergency services, the important thing is to remember that when we're going to a hospital, a sheriff's department, an emergency operations center, we're a guest in someone else's house. So we're not there to run the show. We're there to assist them in whatever they need to do. And Joe, a phrase that you've taught me is that we're not ham radio operators who communicate. We're communicators who happen to use ham radio. And so in doing that, when you go in with an attitude of that, going into a hospital or emergency operations center, wherever it might be, and you go in with, we're here to do whatever it might be. I do recall that during one of the hurricanes that we were working at the emergency operations center, we were asked to help answer telephones. And people were like, well, you're a ham radio operator. What are you doing answering phones? No, we're a communicator. And so because of doing things like that and being willing to help wherever, our served agencies have gotten to the point where they call us for help instead of us having to go seek and see if they need help. Mm-hmm. So it's all about building those relationships and working at making sure they know we're here to serve them and help them, not to take over and run the show.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, well, we even ran into this, Scott and I, we did an event this past weekend for a 150-mile bike race. There are several bike races within one, different distances. But am I right that the overall distance or the longest distance was 150 miles?
Correct. Yep.
And I served as net control. Scott was the incident commander and did administration for it. And there was one ambulance transport that we did have. And I remember when they called me and they said they needed medical assistance right away, and they did it by ham radio. Our immediate response was, well, if it's really a medical emergency, you should be calling 911 if you have cell phone coverage. Now, of course, if you don't have cell phone coverage, two-way radio, in particular ham radio, is your best. But that goes back to that communication idea. So, yeah, again, this is one of those places where we're on the same page for sure.
Absolutely. And it's important to operate that way because, like you said, in this event this weekend, we're here to support the served agency or agencies, not to take over and run the show. And so we have a lot of fun doing it, no matter how serious the situation might be. We enjoy it and we get the job done. Yep.
Well, in Five to Survive, I know that you understand the premise of it because when I was first coming up with the idea, you helped me get the idea and the concept together. But I'm going to explain it for the viewers. The idea is there's 5 categories of equipment that you would use in a survival situation. We've done several on cutting tools, knives, and so forth. We're going to do some on shelters. We'll do it on cordage. In this one, we're going to talk specifically about two-way radios. And just because of where Scott and I come from and our commitment to emergency and disaster communication, we're going to end up with ham radio at some point, but we'll have a few others in there. Now, these aren't things that you would necessarily want to have in your go kit or your shack all the time. These are the 5 that you would choose if you could have only one in each category for the rest of your life. Now, of course, this is one of the places where Scott and I have different views. Scott adopts the newest, greatest technology 3 days before it comes out.
Yep.
And I don't think I own a radio younger than 15 years old.
Oh, no. Yes, you do, Joe. You've got a couple of radios that are less than 15 years.
Oh, you're right. The handhelds.
Yeah.
The FT. Yeah, they're behind me. So, yeah. So I do. Now, here are our categories. FRS or GMRS, a VHF handheld or walkie-talkie, VHF UHF mobile or base, And we've put those together along with the fourth one, the HF Mobile or base, because so many of those units can do either mobile or base. And then an HF QRP, looking at something that's lightweight that we would have with us, we might put into a go bag for long distance communication. Long distance, I'm talking over 30, 35 miles. And then, of course, Scott gets to make a wild card. And this doesn't have to be limited to a radio, but this is one where Scott can say, Joe, that's about the dumbest list I've ever heard. I can't believe you scored 100 on the extra exam.
Never use that as an excuse. Never, ever.
Never, no. Ever. No, and never. We'll get into the why behind the what a little bit. And then I'm going to provide, as best I can, links to purchase any of the gear that you recommend that we talk about. And of course, if you have your own stuff, and this goes to, Gigaparts, you are a product expert at Gigaparts. If you want to promote some stuff there, as what you would choose, you're certainly welcome to. But of course, you know me, and if I think that you're just like blowing smoke, I'll come back at you. So if you're ready, you want to get to it?
Let's do it. So we're going to start with the first one, the FRS or GMRS, and actually the one that I have and I use, and if I had to, I think I would hang on to it. Is the GMR 5089 is the model. It's this radio right here. It's water resistant, but it's waterproof to 3 feet for 30 minutes. So you can drop it in a puddle, pick it up, and it can get wet. It can be in the rain. It does a great job. It does both FRS and GMRS. Some of the specs, they claim that it has a 50-mile radius, although I think the longest that I've ever used this radio with the boost mode is 10 miles. Which is really good for a little handheld radio of this sort. It does a great job. It's got 22 channels. Some of those are FRS, some of those are GMRS. Now with GMRS, technically you were supposed to have a license for that, but they're easy to obtain and you can use that. The FRS you can use, it's family radio service, so you can use that in between you and any of your family members. The great thing with FRS is that one FRS radio is the same frequency and channel as the next one. So channel 1 on one FRS radio is channel 1 on the next one. So that's really nice. You can mix and match brands, and they do a great job. This one's got weather alert. So if you turn on the weather alert, if there's inclement weather where you are, it'll alert you automatically and send the weather broadcast right to the radio. So that's a real nice thing. This one also has a really cool little flashlight on it. You can kick the flashlight on, and if it's really dark out, it actually is pretty bright. You can see around a tent, around wherever you're camping, wherever you're trying to get to. I've used it in the backyard before and done a great job. So it's got that. It's got an SOS flash, so somebody can see where you're at. There's a lot of features that are really good with this radio. So for my FRS, the Uniden, and they've got a couple newer models than this, but Uniden's one of the better ones for range. So that's what I would choose for FRS.
Yeah, now one of the things that I like to emphasize about FRS or GMRS, but particularly FRS, is the radio is channelized, so that the downside of an FRS or GMRS is you don't have access to as many frequencies. The good news is you don't have access to as many frequencies. And what I mean by that is with the FRS and the GMRS, because they're channelized, you don't need to give big, long frequency parameters for people to participate. You can say, hey, be on channel 1, and we're on channel 1. And, for anybody watching, if you have even, the little Disney radios that you bought at a big box store or Wally World, those are FRS radios. They'll talk to each other. And I'm assuming that the Uniden does have PL tones that you can use.
Correct. They call them sub-channels. And so you can pick channel 1, sub channel 23. And if all of your radios are on channel 1, sub channel 23, then you're good to go. There's they call them privacy codes. So you've got 142 privacy codes that you can use. So the likelihood that you're going to be in a crowd and be on the exact same channel and privacy code is slim to none. So you almost have a private channel that you can use for you, your family, friends, whatever.
Right, and it doesn't really give you privacy in the sense that nobody can hear you.
Correct.
And now, are you an advocate when you're doing that with the family radio service, the FRS, that they choose those privacy frequencies or channels that are up higher? Because the tendency of most people is, all right, let's just go to 1 and 1, and then you might crosstalk with somebody else.
So I'm a big advocate of going right in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Because most people will stay down low in the first 10. Some will go up high in the last 10. And if then you use those ones in the middle, not a lot of people. So I stay maybe not right at the middle, but I'll stay in the mid 1/3 or the upper 1/3 or mid to lower 1/3, just you're not up top middle, just right up there. Because not everybody thinks, like you said, they go, oh, let's just go to 1/1. Well, you'll get on there and you'll be at Disney World or wherever, and 20 people will be on that frequency, and then everybody's stepping on each other. Where you go midway up and you're by yourself again, not private, but private enough.
I like that strategy of not going near the top or the bottom. I'm going to start to adopt that, because I usually will go up near the top. I like that being in the middle. That's a good thought.
Yep. So,
well, you're good at this stuff.
Hey, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I get to answer these questions a lot.
All right. Well, with that, let's go on, because some people, we're going to transition to, ham radios.
Yep.
And of course, one of the reasons that I think you agree with me on this, that the thing about ham radio is it covers all of the others.
Yes.
That, you can transmit on FRS and GMRS frequencies. Now, you shouldn't unless there's imminent threat to life or property. But with ham radios, you can also access aviation and marine channels.
Yep.
So let's talk about your VHF and or UHF handhelds.
So I use on day-to-day basis a very expensive radio, and it's not one that I would recommend for everybody. So picking one that I would recommend for everybody is a model that came out recently. It's the Yaesu FT65. And I would pick it for a couple of reasons. One, it's got amazing battery life. I've used this radio. Actually, I carried it with me this weekend and used it as a radio that I just carried around. And the battery lasted me all weekend, and I didn't have to recharge it. Now, needing to put it in the charger when I got home, but it lasted me both days. It's UHF and VHF. It's a rather inexpensive radio considering handhelds. It's about $85 if you go to Gigaparts. I want to say I think it was $89.95 was the price. It's very easy to program off the keypad, which is another thing that I look for in a handheld radio, because in an emergency, when you're not anywhere near a computer, you want to be able to program a frequency into this radio and be able to operate the radio from the keypad. So this little radio, it's lightweight. It's got a great battery. You can get an earpiece over the ear mic for it. The charger actually charges, a desktop charger charges it very well, but you can also plug right into the side of it. It's a great little radio. It's got a light on it. If I remember somewhere, it's got a light on it. But the Yaesu FT65R is a great little radio, lightweight, put it on your belt, carry it. A little bit water resistant. I wouldn't call it waterproof, but if you drop it, it hits a puddle, pick it up, you're okay. It's going to last and you're not going to have to worry about it. So, there's a flashlight right up on front. So it's got a flashlight on it, so you're good to go. Easy to read display, and you'd be all set. So that's what I would recommend for a UHF and VHF handheld. If you're looking for something that you can throw in a backpack, throw in your vehicle as an emergency radio, and have it with you. And it would be one that if I had to pick a radio for the rest of my life, I think I could live with that one.
Now, that looks a very small profile. I hadn't seen the 65 in real life yet. It looks pretty small.
It is. It's really small, and it's a lot thinner than the other radios that we've used and talked about. And it does a great job. Now it's analog only, no digital, none of this special DMR, C4 FM, none of that. It's just a basic analog radio, but it definitely does the job for you. And on simplex, it's a full 5 watts. So simplex, you're going to get every bit of what you can get off of an FRS radio, and maybe a little bit more.
Right. And it's not a replacement for the FT60, is it? It's a different radio.
It's a different radio. It's not a replacement because the FT60 has additional features that this doesn't have. But none of the features that this is missing are features that you would need in an emergency. So everything you need, this one's got.
And of course, you can receive outside of the ham bands, but you can't transmit outside the ham bands.
Correct. You can receive, it'll receive down to, I believe it receives down to 118 and up on the higher end of UHF. So you've got a pretty wide range of receive, and then transmit is just your standard ham bands.
Good. And does it have a scan feature? Do you know?
It does have a scan feature, so you can program in scan channels or just scan a range of frequencies. Mm-hmm. So it's a sweet little radio.
All right, let's look at VHF, UHF, mobile or base.
All right, so if you look over my shoulder, and I'm trying to see if there's a good way to move my camera a little bit, Joe. Let me see here.
Well, that's right. I could I can edit in a close-up one if you want me to.
Right, that'll work. Let's do that. So over my shoulder, I've got a Kenwood TS2000. And this is a great radio. When it comes to UHF and VHF, it can work as a mobile, although it takes up a lot of real estate for that. You would definitely not want your spouse or significant other riding in the front seat with you because they would have to hold it in their lap. So it wouldn't work for that. But it does have dual VFO, which means you can be monitoring two separate frequencies at the same time, switch between them and talk on them. And it does work as a great radio. I love my Kenwood TS2000. It is my go-to radio. It's got a few really nice features in the fact that it's got a built-in packet modem, so you can do a little bit of digital packet over this radio. As well as memory. It's a great radio. So for that one, the Kenwood TS2000 by far, hands down, wins for the radio that I would use for the rest of my life if I had to.
Right. Well, you know that I call it the best check in a box available.
Oh, it absolutely is the best. You can go anywhere with that radio and cover everything you need. We'll hit that as we get into the next point. But it is everything that you would need in a radio.
Right. Now, the packet modem or the TNC that's in it, that gets a lot of knocks as being like KISS only, keep it simple, stupid, which is a real term in ham radio. They really use KISS. Have you ever found any limitations with it, though, something you couldn't do that you needed to do?
I've not found anything I can't do with it. Everything that I'm needed to do with packet, it does the job. I can send email over the packet modem that's built in. I can do command line transmissions where you just one line at a time back and forth. It's done everything that I needed to do. So the people that are complaining about it, I'm not sure where their complaints lie, but I've not noticed any problems with it.
Right. Well, and in full disclosure, and Scott knows this, my Go Kit is a TS2000.
Yes, it is.
And people who have done the online outdoor core ham cram, the zero to licensed ham cram online, they've seen my TS2000 and they know that I love that radio. Not only for VHF, UHF, but here's your leading question. What's your HF mobile or base that you would choose?
Well, as fate would have it, I think I would go with the Kenwood TS2000, Joe.
So it's VHF, UHF, and HF.
It is. And also, we'll just throw the one more in there that we're not mentioning. It's 1.2 gigahertz as well. So that's a whole different band that we won't get into here. But it is a full-blown everything radio. I can sit in the radio behind me. It's actually on. I'm surprised I haven't heard any squawks out of it. But I've got it monitoring on one side. It's monitoring HF, and on the other side, it's monitoring VHF, our local repeater. So it is everything that I would need. And you can use it as a mobile. I have taken mine out and had it in my truck, and we've used them, and we've used yours, Joe, at different events where I can do full HF long range. We've thrown antennas up in trees and done all kinds of stuff. It covers 160 all the way to 6 meters, UHF and VHF, plus the 1.2 gigahertz. So it is a full-blown everything radio. And like I said, if my Kenwood TS2000 ever breaks, I don't care how much it is to repair it, it's getting repaired. I want to keep it. It's a good radio.
Right now, that upper limit though, that's an add-on. The base model doesn't have that, does it?
Correct. It's an add-on card that you can you can do it yourself. It's pop a cover off, drop a chip. It's not a chip, it's a card. drop a card in, got an antenna plug on it, and you're good to go.
Now, there's also a B version that
Yes.
doesn't have, it's just a plain plastic faceplate. There are no knobs, and it's computer controlled. Now, this is different than SDR. Have you ever worked with the B version?
I've not. I would love to get my hands on one because I'm told that they're an amazing radio. But from everything that I've heard, the standard TS2000, like you see in the over my shoulder, with all the knobs and buttons on it, performs a little bit better. Because then and again, when you talk about long term in an emergency situation, you want one with the buttons and knobs on it, because one with the computer, you may have no power where you can't use your computer. You'll probably have a battery or something like that you might be able to, but the likelihood is with the buttons and knobs, you're running off of a solar panel or a deep cycle marine battery or whatever it is that you're pairing your radio with, that may or may not be able to charge your laptop or your computer.
And on HF, that is 100 watts?
It is 100 watts, although when you're running on battery, you definitely don't want to push that limit. You'll suck that battery down pretty quick. And it's a full 50 watts on UHF, VHF. Well, I'm sorry, VHF, and I think UHF is 25 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right on those numbers. I know that it is 50 for VHF.
Yeah, UHF is a little less.
Right. And I think there's a 200 watt version on HF, isn't there?
I don't know on the TS2000. I know Kenwood's got another radio that is similar to the TS2000. It would be the little baby sister or little baby brother to it that does have a 200 watt version. And Joe, I forgot the other part of this. With the UHF VHF side of this, you can also set this up to do satellite.
Oh,
and
right.
And it'll scan the frequency band the way that at the speed that it needs to track satellites. So it's another cool feature.
Well, and I'm going to insert myself into the story a little bit, because another really cool feature is the Sky Command feature.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if you have one of the Kenwood handhelds with an internal TNC, you can monitor. It's almost like crossband repeating, where you can control the radio from your handheld and monitor HF. So I'll have mine up here in the house set on that Sky Command. And if I'm out back grilling or something, I can still, work HF DX or, monitor a net on HF. And I know we talked about that. Have you had a chance to play with that yet?
I started to play with it. I got it all set up, tinkered with it a little bit, and then, I haven't ever completed it.
Well, and if anybody can't tell by now, Scott and I are big fans of the TS2000.
I what now?
I said we're both fans of the TS2000, if people couldn't tell.
My favorite radio. I love it.
Are they still in production?
I've been told no, but you can still get them pretty easily.
Yeah, I know that you can find them on the market.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to, I don't advise buying ham radio from eBay, but if you go to, for the guys with their ham license, QRZ.com.
Absolutely. Yep.
You'll find them there.
Yep, definitely.
All right, let's go lightweight a little bit. What do you got for QRP?
I got introduced to a really awesome low power QRP radio a couple of years ago. And then about a year ago, I got my hands on one. And this one's been modified a little bit, but I've got a Yaesu FT818. It's a small little radio. I've got metal rod lengths on the side that make it a little bit of a more robust radio that's got a little bit of a stand on it. So if I'm sitting at a table, I can prop it up at an angle. This thing will do 6 watts. It's got its own self-contained battery. So in the bottom here, I've got a battery compartment that it's got its own, I'm going to say proprietary, but it's its own battery that will charge once the radio is plugged in to battery or AC power. And this radio is really awesome because, like the TS2000, it does UHF, VHF, and HF all in one radio. So you can literally throw this in to a box. I've got a microphone that plugs into the side, throw this into a box, plug it into a battery or solar panel, and you're good to go. Now, the one thing that's really awesome about this is there's two kinds of antenna for it. They're both BNC. This one here is extendable, and this is your HF antenna that you can use a jumper to select your bands, and then a shorter antenna for your UHF and VHF operations that can plug right into the front of the radio, so you end up with a radio with a little stub like that. So it does a great job out in the field. I was camping about a month ago, I guess it was over Labor Day, and I had this radio out there and made several contacts just on 5 or 6 watts and didn't have any problems at all. We had a blast with this little radio.
Now, was that when we made contact on 40 meters?
That's when we made contact. We made contact on that one on 40 meters on that one, as also 80 meters. When we were talking on 80, we were on.
Oh, yeah.
80.
And how far away were you?
I don't know, about 3 hours. So 180, maybe 200 miles.
Right. And that's a QRP. And for some people, I'm going to apologize for the jargon. QRP just means low power, which is usually defined as less than 10 watts for voice or sideband operation, and usually less than 5 for CW. So I'm assuming that the 818 does both voice and CW. Can you do digital?
I can do digital, not built. I have to have an external digital unit to plug into it, but I have done a lot of digital off of this one. One of the modes is FT8, which is a real short traffic burst on low power, and I did probably 20 or 25 contacts while we were camping on FT8 with this radio.
Yeah, FT8, you can make a lot of those low power, contacts when you maybe have high noise, signal to noise ratio. But FT8 to me is kind of like watching snails race on ice.
That's a good way to put it. That's about right. It is one of those where you hit a button and it doesn't, okay, that contact's done 45 seconds later. Next one. Okay, that one's done okay, yep, there we go. It's not a lot. It's to me, it's a boring mode. But there are guys who have worked multiple countries, worked all the states, worked around the world, and hey, it is a mode to work, and it's one of those challenges that you get to take part of.
Well, and I mean, guys have said the same thing about PSK 31.
Yep.
They're like, because in fact, I love to work PSK 31, but I also call it the lazy man CW.
And that it is, I agree. It's all done off the keyboard, which can be a lot of fun. And I don't know Morse code, so those are the modes that I gravitate to.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give you another segue opportunity here. Now, when you were south working with the 818, you didn't use that HF antenna, though, did you? What's your wild card?
No, I did not use that HF antenna. So I used what's called an off-center fed antenna, and it's actually, we've come to find out it's a homebrew. Somebody made it, and I got my hands on it. And the thing's about 102, 106 foot long. We put it about 20 foot up. One leg goes out a long way one way and not so long the other way. And that antenna has seemed to outperform just about any antenna that I own. And wish I could get my hands on a couple more of them, because it's a fabulous antenna. And it rolls up into a small roll, probably about this big. And it's one of those that I can throw in a backpack or in a case with this radio, and I'm off and running, and all I need is a battery or some kind of power, and I'm good to go.
Right. Well, and you with the internal battery.
With the internal battery, and the internal battery will last a couple of hours. So you can get some stuff done and then plug it in, charge it off a solar panel, and a few hours later you're ready to go again.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned the size of what that can roll into, because you talk about, what'd you say the length was? 160 feet, 106 feet?
I think it's a total of 102 feet.
Okay, 102 feet. So somebody might hear that and think, wow, that's not portable. But when you have the concept of how small that goes.
Yep.
So that was a home. Again, I know the antenna you're talking about. I've helped you set it up several times. That's a homebrew antenna? Somebody made that?
Somebody made that. And so what they did is they took a PVC T and they used shrink. They hooked up all the wires into it, and then they put not shrink wrap, the heat shrink on the edges and melted it down to make it sealed. The thing looks like a commercial antenna.
It does. I thought it was commercial.
I thought it was too, and then doing some checking on it, I saw the markings on the PVC pipe that proved it was PVC. So I was pretty impressed. So somebody did a really good job on it.
That's an impressive antenna.
It is. It is.
So, all right. So there's your 5 that you've chosen.
Yep.
What's your wild card?
So one of the things that, all right, I don't want to transmit. I don't want to talk on a radio. I just want to listen. You can by far get one of these radios and you can listen. But I go back to the days when I was growing up, when I got my first, now this is really going to date me. And I don't consider myself that old, but I remember the old police scanners that you had to have the little crystals that you plugged in for the frequency. And that was the only frequency you could listen to on that channel. And if you didn't have the crystal for it, it didn't work. So I'm dating myself going back, but I had the most fun with that scanner. Somebody gave it to me and I had all of the local police department and the fire department. And I don't know, I had a few other things and I listened to those. I think it was 8 channels and you flipped the switch to listen to this one and turned it off. So you didn't hear that one and it scanned all the time. So moving fast forward to now, my favorite little non-transmit radio is actually a scanner. And it's one of those things that you charge up, runs off a battery. It listens forever. I can go days without charging this thing. Now this one here will listen to frequencies as low as 3 megahertz all the way up to 1.3 gigahertz or something like that. It'll listen to all the HF bands. You hook it up to the right antenna. I've got a pretty long antenna on this right now. You can see this length. This is more of a UHF VHF antenna, but it does pick up some HF that are stronger signals. This is the ICOM IC R30. It's a little bit of a pricey scanner, but it scans everything. It blocks out a few of the cell frequencies, but I can listen to aircraft. I've got several of the local airports programmed into this, and I've got fire rescue, I've got ambulance services, I've got Life Flight, Trauma One, all of that in this, and I just let it sit on the table and scan, and I can hear just about anything within range. Marine, all of it. It's a great little scanner.
So that's the R30?
That's the R30.
So is that just a newer version of the R3?
Yes, it is. It is a newer version. The R3, I think on the R3, it's got a screen big enough that you could watch analog TV if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you could.
So this doesn't have that feature, but it does have all of the bands. And I guess the technology is just a little bit newer.
And what's the antenna connector? Is that BNC or SMA?
It's SMA. So it's a screw-on antenna, but I've got an adapter because I do have a BNC antenna. As a matter of fact, the antenna that I use for my FT818 is a little bit heavy for the scanner, but I have an adapter that goes from SMA to the BNC, and I have put that on there to get my HF frequency listening in a lot clearer when I'm out camping or something.
Something I've done for HF with the R3 is I have a metal telescopic antenna. Yeah. I have about 100 feet of wire, really thin wire with an alligator clip. I just alligator clip it to that.
Nice.
And run it out, and I get great signal. All right, now, I was going to challenge you on this because I was like, all right, 2-way, rest of your life. But as you're talking, I was thinking, no, you know what? That does work for a radio for the rest of your life, because if you need to monitor several frequencies and still be able to transmit while you're listening, that's a great choice. I like that.
It is one of those things that I thought about when I was thinking about doing this, and I thought, okay, you know, I could pull out this, I could pull this out, oh, you know what? I saw the scanner sitting on my desk and said, I think that's the way to go, because the other thing that you can do is it's an AM FM radio, so you can listen to radio stations. You can actually, if a TV station is transmitting on an analog frequency, you can also listen to that. So you can listen to TV transmissions, because there are still stations that do that. And it'll also decode some digital modes. I haven't messed with that too much on this, but it's got a lot of features in it that make it really nice.
See, I was all ready to call you out, and then you threw that curveball on me.
Every once in a while I try. It's my lot in life to try to challenge Joe and see if I can stump him or make him go, I didn't think of that.
Well, and you did it. And one of the things that some people might be thinking is, well, wait, I can get FM broadcast stations usually on even a VHF, UHF handheld, but very few of those handhelds can get you down to where you can do broadcast AM.
Right.
And the thing to keep in mind about broadcast AM is it has a much greater range. Yep. So even though there's not as much activity there now, in an emergency, if you needed to listen, that's a great resource to have. And that Wildcard, I'm with you. I like that one. Well, we have a little bit of extra time. So along with that off-center fed, what are some of the other HF antennas you like to use?
So I have a really awesome MCOM portable radio. And I've got it right here. I did bring it into the shack with me. It's in a duffel bag that is actually pretty light. The nice thing about this is it comes with its own tripod. So, and I'm tangled up here. So it's got its own tripod that goes up to about, I don't know, Joe, 6 or 8 feet. Is that?
The tripod itself, yeah.
Yeah, the tripod goes up to 6 or 8 feet. But then it's got this really cool, for anybody that set up any tents, that's what I think of when I see this. It's this metal tubing that unfolds, and I'm going to do that in my shack, and I'm going to break something. So let's see what we can do. Here we go. So it unfolds and sticks together, and this thing goes 18 feet.
Oh, it's at least 18 feet because I can't fit it under these eaves of my house when we've had it over here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 18 feet, and you can extend it all the way out, and it acts as the vertical portion of the antenna. And then this antenna has several, and when I mean several, I've got a lot of these little loops of wire with stakes in them that you can use for counterpoise for different frequencies, different bands, different receptions, and increase the reception. And Joe, we've set this thing up a few times and used it for actual events that we've operated and worked and made amazing contacts with it. And it's rather inexpensive. Again, it's got a shoulder strap on the thing, so you can carry it over your shoulder, or you can carry it with a handle. And if you really wanted to, you could probably put it in something smaller. You don't have to use the tripod with it. You can use it, throw a wire up in the tree, and you're good to go. But this thing, and it's an alpha antenna. And you can get those in several different places. They have several different models or versions of it that have various lengths and various lengths of tripod and setups. But the alpha antenna is a great HF portable emergency antenna. It'll handle a full 100 watts. I've used it on my QRP radio, as well as my full power HF radios that we use out in the field, and it does a great job.
That has a horizontal element to it as well. Do you know how long it is?
The longest leg is 40 feet on it.
Because I know we've done NVIS with it.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's got a 40-foot leg on it. And we've done it. It's funny. You can do a inverted V dipole with it. But we've also, the nice thing about amateur radio is the fact that there is no exactness to it. There is a little bit of ambiguity in some ways that you can, let's try this and see if it'll work. And we've tried different configurations that aren't necessarily in the instruction book, and it works great. And we've tried some that didn't work. Let's try something else. So it's a great little antenna for trying things out, but it's great for working out in the field, and it's portable enough. You can throw it in your trunk, in the back of your truck. I keep this one in the back of my truck all the time.
And that's the one with it has the 9-to-1 balun in it as well, doesn't it?
Correct. Yes, it does. Yep.
Yeah. And I also think, well, I know that in your bag you have a jaw clamp.
Yes.
Did that come with the antenna, or did you throw it in after?
That came with that antenna. And actually, I don't think it's in this bag right now. I think we used it for another antenna, and it's on that pole right now.
And it also comes with guys and stakes for that tripod, doesn't it?
Correct. Yep. So you can secure the antenna and make it pretty stable. We've used it in rougher winds. Not hurricane force, but some, where it's been a windy day and it stays standing, no problem.
We've used it for at least two school club roundups, haven't we?
Yep, we've used it for 2 school club roundups. We've used it for winter field day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Out there. And then we used it for field day this last year and set up and got some really good results with it.
Oh, I wasn't at field day very long. I didn't remember it being there.
Yeah, it was there and set up, but we didn't. I don't think we set it up right at the beginning. I think we set it up like in the middle of the night because we needed something to do.
Hey, well, I mean, it's always a blast talking with you, and we go on forever and ever. It's not like we never talk.
Well, that's true. We do talk, and sometimes we even use the radio.
Yeah, and we actually recorded this one.
So we'll have it for posterity to prove that we do talk to each other. So
now you'll be able to prove when I was stupid.
Well, now it's not like our normal conversations or our normal events where we can finish each other's sentences because we know what each other's going to say, but it's close enough.
Well, I didn't know that the TS-2000 was going to show up.
Oh, well, it's over my shoulder. You can't miss that radio. I mean, it's there.
But I did not know that you had the 65R, and I liked your choice for the FRS. I figured with the QRP, the 818 would show up.
Oh, absolutely. That's the way to go for QRP.
Yeah. I know that you're a product expert at gigaparts.com.
Yep.
So, if people want to get in touch with you and learn about some gear, they can go there and do the chat. You're usually on in the mornings, right?
I'm usually on from 8 to 9 o'clock ish Eastern time every morning, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I'll let it drag a little bit later. I've been on as late as 11:30, and then I'm usually off. Sometimes I'll jump on in the afternoon, so you can get a hold of me there. But if I'm not there, you can always ask for me, and they can back channel message me. And if I'm at a computer, I can jump on.
And you're not paid for that. That's a non-compensated position, right?
Not a compensated position monetarily. However, I will admit that my fancy FT818 came from Gigaparts as part of a promotion that they ran for those of us that do the chat. We get points, and so after a accumulation of a certain number of points, you can kind of exchange that for whatever you want. So that's kind of how I get some of my radios, which is a lot of fun.
And of course, anybody with their license can look you up on QRZ.
Yep, you can look me up on QRZ. I'm on Facebook. So if you look up my call sign, KK4ECR, I'm on Facebook. And I try to keep posts coming up on that pretty relevant. This last weekend, there's some photos from the weekend and the event that we worked this weekend. You can always get a hold of me on our local ARES, our Amateur Radio Emergency Service page at clayares.org, CLAYARES.org. And you can always see what we've got going on there. And then always you can direct email me, my call sign, KK4ECR@gmail.com.
Hey, great. Hey, I'm glad you did this. You're our first radio one.
I'm kind of glad. I've watched some of your other ones, and I was thinking, man, I don't know if I can do that. I know I saw Creek, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't have hair like Creek. I don't know if I can do this, but he pulled it off and did a good job. So hopefully I can come close to matching up.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again. I'm going to run. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. I had a blast.